important to these stereotypes to be redefined as well as for example, the stereotype of an atheist being immoral and a Christian being moral. That's a stereotype that needs to be not redefined by us, but we encourage people to redefine their own stereotypes, not the stereotypes, not just accept the stereotypes that are given and the stereotypes that are presented to them. They have to reassess their stereotypes, and rather than encouraging people to not to believe in God, we'd like to encourage people to ask themselves truly, do they believe in God, or do they have any reason to believe in God? And if they decide they do, then I think we'd have still done some good in helping people to question themselves.
Well, I think that's one of the most important things. I mean, I don't think a lot of religious people do it, but to sit down and think, what if I'm wrong? And assess the sort of implications of that. It's an important thing to do. Even for atheists, you should allow yourself the intellectual freedom to sit down and ask yourself whether or not you might be wrong. I mean, and if you are right, that's a harmless exercise. And if you are wrong, surely you would like to know about it. And if you wouldn't like to know about it, then you should ask yourself why you wouldn't like to know if you're wrong. But it's definitely something everyone should ask themselves about what they believe. And personally, I would be quite happy for someone to show me that I'm wrong, because it's an opportunity to learn something and to let go of a certain ignorance that I had before. So, yeah, what if you're wrong, basically? It's a good question to ask. But, yeah, and I think that we should address the argument against non-religious people that, God instills in us this innate sense of morality, and that if you reject belief in God, you're sort of rejecting morality. Which, I mean, I would agree that there is an innate sense of morality in people, but I would say that that's something that is a product of evolution.
In natural selection, if you had 100 people who, it's 100 people split up into two tribes of, sorry, wrong example. If it's 100 people exist in a tribe, and 50 of them, or the majority of them, were non-cooperative, they didn't help out in the hunt, or they didn't help in building or anything like that. They generally quarrelled with the other ones. The ones that stuck together would have been the ones that survived. And I think that's why people that aren't moral died out, because natural selection favoured those that were moral.
Yeah, and I mean, to an extent, it's definitely influenced by our culture. And there's an example of this in a book called Social and Cultural Anthropology, a very short introduction. I can't remember who it's by, but it's saying there's this tribe of people who believed that twins were inhuman and should be allowed to die of neglect. And that sort of raises interesting questions about our view of morality. But I think it also emphasises the kind of negative influence that superstition has upon morality as well. But as a general rule, I think we do have this sort of, the general population have this innate kind of understanding of right and wrong, which, if we were instinctively aggressive towards everyone and wanted to kill our neighbours, we just wouldn't have progressed as a species. And I think it's not an absolute that everyone is born moral, because obviously you have these examples like that I just gave. But yeah, going back to that example, the idea that we should allow twins to die of neglect is based upon a similar sort of superstition that a lot of religious morality is based on, which is probably, you know, in ancient times there might have been twins born that they attributed certain, you know, there might have been a pest on their livestock or their crops, and they might have thought that that was caused by twins being born. So then they thought, we must allow all twins to die. It's kind of that ancient superstition that's based upon flawed logic, and it's not based in truth, which is the kind of thing that we're against.
I think it's to understand that the kind of societies where that superstition could thrive. So if you look back on and think where do earthquakes come from, like all weather and storms and tidal waves and volcanoes and all these things, what are the stars and the sun? If you didn't know any of these things and these were all completely esoteric to you, then I think it would be a lot more understandable why these things are easy to believe, because you don't know anything about what's going on. You don't know why your crops aren't doing well this year. So it's easy to look to superstition.
Yeah, if you think that there is a force that gives you good crops if you sacrifice a goat in a certain way, or whatever, it's just. Well, I think it comes from, because humans, what makes us unique as a species is our ancestors had the intelligence to deduce from observing surroundings information, like, I mean, the example that's used in the Walking with Cavemen documentary is seeing footprints in the dirt on the plains and being able to deduce that was a rhino and it was going in that direction, and you know, you can deduce how old the footprints are and stuff. It's that we've sort of evolved this reasoning capacity, but it only works when it's based on knowledge, because you know what shape a rhino's foot is and you know which direction it's going in. But when that kind of reasoning is applied to things that we don't know about, like pests and disease, the reasoning can just go off in a completely wonky direction, because you sort of think, well, we don't know why these people are getting sick. There must be a curse, or, you know, the logic kind of goes off down the superstitious route when it's not based in truth. So I think that's what the truth aspect of the beautiful truth would be, is kind of logic and reason based in truth, rather than based in superstition.
The truth has always been the ultimate aim of civilization, and whenever it reaches a point where it makes progress in truth, that's when the beautiful things arise, like the advance of medicine, or the advance of architecture, or the advance of politics. This is when there's a breakthrough and superstition is disregarded, truth is progressed, and that's when we make progress.
Yeah, and it's sort of shameful to see that in society, and not just coming from people like creationists, it's also coming from sort of people that believe in homeopathy and alternative medicine and things like that. There's a sort of assault on science, but you know, science and the scientific method is the best way that we can conceive of arriving at truth, and it's definitely not something you should reject. And it's quite sort of alarming to see the numbers of people that willingly reject science or manipulate it to serve their superstitious beliefs.